Hi, I'm Paul Brodie. We are in my shop. Mitch is behind the camera, and welcome. We're working on a Aermacchi race hub. It's the front brake, and last week we drilled 46 holes in the hub. Saved, I think, 157 grams. And then I took off some extra burrs, and then I went down to Modern Motorcycles in Vancouver, and he's got a, I did ask, and I think it's a dye. I don't think it's an acid, and that's why the hub looks this way. It's supposed to be a little bit darker. It's supposed to look like magnesium. So it kind of looks like it, but I wanted more of an effect. I bead blasted it to make it a little bit rougher and to take off the coating or whatever's on the surface. I think maybe what it needs is sandblasting, and then the dye really adheres better, makes it darker, but it is what it is. I'm not going to go through that process again. So what we're going to do now is to make a spacer. This is the spacer that goes in between the wheel bearings, and it's made out of steel. I know no one ever sees it, but we're going to make one out of aluminum and save some weight. So first step is I've got some inch OD 6061. We'll go to the bandsaw, we'll cut it off, we'll go to the lathe, and then we'll weigh it. We'll see how much weight saving. Switching my tool bit now, and I've got a little boring bar. See that? Little boring bar. This is the axle I'll be using. It's a 15mm axle. Oh, they made it way bigger. And I made it exactly the same size as the stock one, so look at the stock one. Oh well, so we have to make it the same length here, or 1 thou longer. So you notice I got a space here. I could have had this in farther, but if I have it in farther, I can't measure. So we've got 100 thou to come off. I've set that to 0 and I've locked the carriage. I'm going to take a tool, and I'm going to take some metal off the outside there, in between here and here. That'll save a little bit of weight. So we'll go over to the weighing scale, and we'll see how much weight we saved. Okay, so we're calibrated, we're at 0. And the stock one weighs 68.7. And the new one weighs 31.6. So we saved at least half the weight. It looks nicer, but no one is ever going to see it. Okay, we're going to install this. We're going to go over to the arbor press, install the bearings. And the bearings are the stock ones. I think they're 52 years old, and they still have the stock grease. And they spin really nicely. So I don't even have to buy new bearings, which is a bonus. I found a socket, which is just the right size. So that's what's going to go here. It should go in quite nicely. Look at that, nice. And new little spacer, because I'm about to hit the hub there. There, that's seated very nicely. So that's one side done. flip it over. There's the spacer. Center it more or less. And we'll put in the second bearing. That's it. We're going to work on the backing plate now. I'm going to show you what's going on. It's going to get modified quite a lot. So let's go over to the stand. Okay, these are the forks which I bought at a wrecking yard. I paid $100 each. These are getting hard to find now. This is what the fork looked like when I picked it up out of the yard, and you can see that I've done quite a bit of work on this one here, smoothing it out. There's your side-by-side comparison. This is what holds the brake shoes that goes inside the hub. And this is what it looks like stock, and you can see how the cable comes down, and the cable has to angle like that, which is not such a bad thing, but I don't like having a cable angled if it doesn't have to. And last week, it's the torque stay we made. In comparison, here's the stock torque stay off the Honda. It's made out of steel, so it's going to be a little bit heavy. I think this one looks better. So what's going to happen here, you can see all the red felt pen marks. This is all the changes we're going to make. This is going to get relocated where the torque stay anchors. This is going to get moved like that. And I've got a piece of aluminum here, and you see this shape. That's where the torque stay is going to anchor. I'm going to make it out of this piece of metal. It's about 3/4 inch aluminum. So what that means is that I'm going to have room for an air scoop to go in here. I'm going to knock off this that holds the cable, and I'm going to drill 3 holes. So that's the modifications we're going to make on the backing plate. So the first step is to go into the mill. We're going to drill 3 holes and take off this piece with an end mill. We have to hold the backing plate somehow, and if you hold it in the mill vise, there's not really a lot to hang on to. So I took this piece of plate here, I drilled an extra hole. It's full of holes that are tapped. So this is going to go like so. And I've got some Allen screws with some washers. And those are going to hold the plate down, and this is going to get held in the vise. That'll be held secure. Okay, we are in the mill. We've got it all set up. I've torqued down the Allen screws. We've got an inch hole saw, and I'm going to punch 3 holes. What the air hose does, it blows the chips away. I'm going to use a larger end mill to start with, and then I'm going to switch to a ball end mill. This here is the cable stop, and so I'm taking off the cable stop, and I want to show you a photo of where the new cable stop is. It's basically right here, up in the top. That's going to be the new cable stop right there. So it's built in, but it's not on the hub anymore. I'm going to switch end mills now. I'm going to use a ball end mill because I'm going to ramp down. You see how this is angled and this is flat? I don't want to gouge. Oh, there's a hole behind there that I'll have to fill in. Look at that. There's a hole in the casting, so they save some weight on the casting. Okay, well I'll have to glue a piece in there and bond that in. Okay, see this file here? It's got a bend to it. It used to be straight, so what I did was I had some water in a jar and I heated this up red hot. I bent it, I quenched it, so now it's still a hard file. I'm not going to file the whole thing right now, but I'll just show you what I'm going to do. I can get in there like that, and I can go back and forth, and I can take it down. It's going to take me maybe half an hour if I want to be careful. And I keep on going until I've got it nice and flat. Use some emery cloth. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm using a curved file. So let's move on now. We're going to start making this piece here out of aluminum. Okay, this is my template I made back in 2001. I know that I normally use a red felt pen, but this time we're going to use some marking blue. Just to be different, it's machinist blue as well. And this one has a brush. Sometimes it comes in a spray bomb. And you can see how this works. And we're going to scribe some lines. You have to let it dry. So what I'll do is I'll take it over to the air hose and I'll force dry it. I've got my template. I've got my piece of aluminum. So the scribe line shows up in the machinist blue. It's a little bit more accurate than using a red felt pen. Here's my dividers. This one has a carbide tip on it that I did years ago, and it still hasn't broken. So that's a perfect arc. We're going to drill 8mm holes down there. I'm going to countersink one, and then we'll go to the bandsaw and I'll cut that one out, and then we'll go to the mill and we'll take out metal so that that can fit over top of the boss. It's flush. See that? And that's 1/2 inch down. So that's what that's going to look like right there. And you can see how there's a nice radius here, so I'm going to have to radius that. But the next step is to cut out this. So let's go to the bandsaw and we'll do some cutting. I made this piece up so you can see, so I could see how far down I had to go. So I needed an extra 1/2 inch. That's why I took 1/2 inch off here. And then when I bring it over here, I can see that where this part is here, I've got maybe almost 1/8 inch there, a couple millimeters. This shape is going to look something like that. I think that's what it's going to look like when this piece fits onto here. Something like, it's going to have to cut out like that. This is my porting tool. I'm going to use this burr. It's carbide and it cuts quite fast. I've got stick wax, and it helps the tool to cut faster on aluminum. So I just put a little bit on there. You can see how it goes into the flutes a little bit. See that? And that helps it to cut. If you get the chips in your mouth, it's got a certain taste to it. They don't taste good. Not recommended. So we'll take this off now. We'll have a quick check. This is called a Prussian blue, I think, or is it Russian blue? And it's like a little paste. There you go, I got a little bit. I'm going to put some right here. You see that? That's kind of a lot. So this will show me where the point of contact is. This is a handy thing to do if you're ever in a situation where you don't know where something's hitting. See, it's hitting right there. So I need to make this more of a radius to match that. So I'll do that now. This stuff lasts a long time. I've had this since I was 18 and started working in a machine shop because that's where I learned how to use this stuff. It still has to come down more because there should only be a little gap between. I should have this much space between here and there. And I got way too much right now, so I know I'm on the right track. Oh, look at that. A little bit right there and maybe right there. Okay, so I think we're basically done. We ended up with a little bit of a gap here, but I've got some good glue. So I'm going to wash this off with solvent now, and we'll glue this on. I'm making this really rough as possible. This is it 40 grit? Yeah, it's 40 grit emery, so it's pretty coarse, because that's what the glue really wants to grab onto. So that's where it wants to go, right there. That seems to be the middle. I've had the glue in my pocket to warm it up a little bit, to make it a little bit easier for mixing. It's a two-part, and I'm going to need a bit here. So equal parts of each. So it should squeeze out the sides. That would be a good thing. And I'm going to add some extra because there's going to be a little bit of a cavity right on the end here. So I'll make sure that it fills up pretty well. So if you look on this side, you can see it's squeezing out a bit, which is good. And we need more in the back there. So it seems like it's starting to harden up a little bit now. It sets in about 4 or 5 minutes, and then it fully hardens, I think, in about 4 hours. It actually smooths it out. You can make this quite smooth, and then once it sets up, you can also machine it. So that's basically it. It's glued in place. This is 8mm drill. We're gonna drill down through there. I'm gonna make it larger after that because I'll go in from the back, and then I'm gonna drill and ream a larger hole, and I'm gonna put a threaded steel insert in from the back so that the bolt holding the backing plate is going into a steel insert. If you look in here, can you see how on the Honda one there's a threaded steel insert which is cast in? There's also cast in steel here and also on the pivots. So that's what Honda's done as well. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to drill that through and then make a little insert on the lathe and Loctite it in. I'm going to hold that in the mill and I'm going to take out, all this comes out because that's where the air goes in. There's going to be an air scoop that fits over this, looking racy, and that comes out. So let's put this in the mill. I'll drill that hole, I'll cut that out, and then we'll flip it over and bore that out. Okay. So I'm spot facing because I'm going to make an insert, and the insert has to go up against the shoulder. So the insert's going to be 1/2 inch of a shoulder. This is what the shoulder of the insert is going to hit. So I'm going to take off the least amount possible once I get down to that surface. And that's it. Okay, so there's the drill. Took a very small cut. See the chips? Didn't take very much of a cut at all, but whoa, that chuck was tight. It did not want to release. So this is still warm. If I hold it with my hand, I can feel it's got some heat into it, so it's going to be a little larger. So you can see here it's a little more than 1/2 thou over, and I want it to be probably 1/2 thou under. So let's see what we can do. Let's go find some Loctite and let's tap it into place. I've got some green Loctite. It's retaining compound, so that's good. When you put that in, it should not come out. Ooh, that's lots. So here we go. That's a nice fit. I don't think that's coming out. So let's have a look at the other side. I never even checked the length. Yeah, certainly enough Loctite. Good, it's just under the surface. I've got some cardboard. I'm at a good position to see what's going on here. I'm going to design an air scoop because air has to go into here. So I'm going to have an air scoop that comes out, and it'll funnel the air into the brake to cool the brake. So I'm just going to see what I can do here. It has to go around this piece here, so I need to figure out how big that is, and that is about 1.125 inches. So I think that's where I'm going to start. We're going to come down about like that. So there's my circle. I'll grab some scissors. So that should fit around, that fits pretty good. So I want this to be, I want the back to be in line with the fork because that's going to look good. And then it looks like to be level. This is going to be about the level like that. So that'll get bent. It's going to have a bend there as well. So if I cut this off, I'm just seeing what sort of a shape I can get right now. And then this is going to bend as well, although it won't be a real sharp bend. It'll have somewhat of a radius. Maybe this gets cut off like that. And then we don't want this going out front, we want this to be level. I'm looking at the one I did last time, and I'm trying to see, it looks like this one is a lot shorter in here. Needs a little bit more shape though. So if we do this, see, this is the handy part of having dirty fingers, because now I know exactly what the contour looks like. Yeah, that looks better. Why don't we make one out of aluminum? I've got some 50-52. If it's 6,000, it doesn't want to bend very well. What I like to use is 3003, but the metal shop doesn't have any apparently. So I'm going to make the bottom a little longer, and where it bends, that'll be a little bit lower. So I wanted a little bit extra on this side, so there we go. There's a little bit extra. And I can always cut it back if I need to. So I'm going to set it up like that. So there's my bend line, but because it's a larger radius, I'm going to start up a bit more. I'm just guessing here how much that should be. So let's see what happens here. Oh, that bends pretty easy. Can you see how it's got a little bit of a radius here? This side's going to be flatter. This has a bit of a radius, so if I knock it down, that's flatter. This stuff bends pretty easy. Just want to see. It's fairly flat. Look at that. It's not bad. There we go. See, it looks nice. So even though I was hitting it with a 2x4, there's no marks. And there's an air scoop, just like that. And that's where the air is going to go in, right in there. I might put a little piece of mesh in there to stop sticks and stones going in there. Thanks for watching our video. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe. See you next week. Thank you.